Hey guys, it's Ghosty and special guest
Vreni, hi, I go by she, they.
Welcome back to my channel, and today we're talking about the Horrors of Euphoria. The week of April Fools, and I decided that it'd be funny to cover Euphoria on my channel because it's not horror, but it has a lot of fucked up shit in it. And today I want to talk about it with my friend Vreni because they also expressed to me that they were not happy with this show. I personally have not heard a single bad thing about this show aside from you. I went into it with high hopes. I was like so excited, like, yeah, this is gonna be the best thing ever. This is everybody's talking about. It's so deep, it's so great. I personally also really enjoy watching films, reading books, TV shows that talk about addiction because I have a family that struggles with addiction. I take that topic very seriously, and I hated this. I hated everything about it. I started after the first episode. I decided I was going to hate it, and proceeded to hate watch that. I don't know about your experience with watching Euphoria.
It was very interesting because when I had first watched season 1 when it had first came out, I was super into it, like everyone else, going along with the hype, like waiting for each episode. But I think what had happened was when I had later let it kind of set in, because I think it started in 2019 when it started. And then as I kind of got into 2020 in quarantine, I'm like rewatching and I'm like, that was the kind of when I went back and I'm like, wait a minute, like going over everything again. And then with the special episodes, that's when it was really hitting me. I was like, oh, wait a minute,
Yeah, I watched those specials as well, and they were a hot pile of poo. I think it's worth to mention that I gave this a chance, but I was a little skeptical because I watched Malcolm and Marie and I learned a bunch of shit about the director and writer Sam Levinson, who's also the director and writer of Euphoria. I learned that he's a rich white boy with a lot of money and a lot of no talent. I just learned today that actually he did struggle with addiction in the past, which is like, okay, so I understand why he's so obsessed with writing addicts, because if you watch Malcolm and Marie, Zendaya's character, also an addict. So I understand like why he might write about it, but even then, like the way he writes addiction is so incredibly vague and inauthentic. It's like I don't even know if I believe him when he says that he did struggle. I don't know if that's like rude. But he uses these issues like mental illness and like addiction, things that like people are like, oh, finally we're getting a space where we're talking about these things. He uses things because he knows that people are gonna like eat it up and be like, I'm so used to watching happy-go-lucky shit that I'm happy that I'm finally watching something that covers something real. And it's like there's other films and TV shows that do what Euphoria tried to do way better. I mean, I've talked about Beautiful Boy a lot. If you know me, you know that's literally one of my favorite movies. It was my favorite watch movie last year. And I think that movie did a great job, but where Beautiful Boy literally used books that were written by Nick, who was the addict, and his dad, David, David Chef, Nick and David. Yeah. The director and the writers use those books as like a huge source material when we are talking about addiction or eating disorders or mental health. I think it's so important to pull from real life people, hear their words, take their words, and apply them to the movie.
Yeah, because you're touching on so many different things. Like you're touching on addiction, you're touching on a lot of like issues in the LGBTQAI community, plus community, and it's like you're talking about trans youth, you're talking about, but then you have to keep in mind it's like we're all like what is this, 16, 17, 18, this age group, and the hypersexualization.
Oh my gosh.
And it's not even like the expression of, oh, we're being hypersexual or we're getting into these bad relationship tendencies where we're in abusive relationships. And what is the way of, not like, oh, this person did something to me, they choked me, they hit me, and I just knew no matter what they would do, I would still love them. Like we should be like, okay, where is she gonna, you know what I mean? Like she has these tendencies, but where's her out? Where is her? Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like it's like,
yeah, I hated that so much. They had this entirely insane, toxic relationship. Maddie and Nate. Nate's a fucking psycho.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I know that 17-year-old boys have the capability of being that psycho, but I don't know, man. Like, ooh, he was a lot. And like a lot of people say, like, oh, he's just complicated. I don't feel bad for him.
No.
I don't feel bad for him. I don't feel like he makes these bad decisions because he's traumatized and had a hard life. No, I do not. You know what? He reminds me of a fucking mass shooter. He literally, and I have no sympathy
Yeah.
for people like that. I think they especially tried to push this, like, oh, feel bad for Nate when they featured him in his episode, because every character has like their feature moment, which really does nothing at all for any of them, but whatever they thought. And the relationship with him and Jules, secret relationship where he like is leading a double life, we're supposed to see him as like this softer, like, oh, he's not really a bad guy, he just has to be this way because of his dad. Like, they basically pushed the trope of the jock that is following his dad's footsteps to the extreme, because his dad has a daddy complex, and now he's 17 with the daddy comp. This boy is 17. I'm supposed to believe there's like 17-year-old guys out here with the daddy
that are literally that tall. No, like that are that large.
Yeah.
Like stalking people, showing up at their apartments, tying them up, being
like,
yeah.
What? And yeah, I mean, on the hypersexualization, these teens are not just like exploring and curious about sex like in an innocent, I just need to know way. These teens are very aware of like these girls are like sexy. And like when I was in high school, I thought I was sexy too, but I wasn't like that. The way they talk about sex too, like I could, like when I started having sex at 17, I wanted to hide it. Like I didn't want my friends to know because we were in high school and
Judgy.
People that had high school, yeah, exactly. And I was like, I don't really, hey guys, let's get some dick. Like I didn't start saying that until I was like 22 maybe. Like they say that. Jules says that.
And yeah, no, that, yeah, it's not the 70s or something, catch a dick or something. No, I remember that. Because that's the thing, it's like the not only just the hypersexualization, but they're being put into situations and scenarios that are actually extremely terrifying. These high school parties that they're going to, even, you know, the college parties that we get shown, and the I mean, the dating apps that essentially Grinder, basically, you know what I mean? Those types of apps, you know, that are really like putting these people at serious risk of their safety. Like that's another thing too. They're shedding light, but not in the way that's like, you know, everyone wants to get Tinder and all these things. My friends had Tinder in high school, but they used it as a joke, but people were still preying on them. And really they said, like they said they were 22 and they said they were, you know, all these different, when they really weren't. People were still preying on them, but the whole time Jules is like, oh yeah, lying, but they didn't really, they're just kind of like, oh, okay, you know what I mean, like they're not.
Yeah, I don't understand that, because it's well, first of all, the amount of statutory rape that is just very casual in this show.
Yeah,
there's a lot of illegal shit happening here, and nobody, like, I thought that we were getting to an age where we're starting to realize how weird shit like that is, like older men that prey on younger women. We're supposed to just think it's okay that Jules is meeting this random guy online in a new neighborhood, and it's like, it's one thing to show like a kid that puts himself in the situation because they are naive, because they don't know and they're just trusting. Like that's scary to watch, that's real. But it's almost like Jules is looking for this. Like she wants to date somebody that is older than her.
And not only you're a minor on apps like that and stuff like that, you really, like, Jules is so open with like, here are pictures, this is what I look like, you know what I mean? Like that really could have been screenshotted, sent to the parent. You know what I mean? It's like the reality of that. You would not be as open, like you would have a black screen, you know what I mean? It would take a while to meet up with this person. When you do meet up with this person, you're not like the whole like nudes over the chat type thing and like pictures on the profile. You know, I'm just kind of like, they know that they are minors, they are conscious to that. And I feel like, you know, like I don't think Jules is totally like, it's over her head, like she knows that it's illegal, like,
Right.
actually, you know?
It's hilarious that they have so much statutory. I don't like to R word. I know I said it before, but I really don't like to say that word. Statutory R word. In this show, but they and like child, pornography because of like Cat's whole thing. But
Mhm.
in the beginning of the show, like the second episode, maybe the first one, when her video gets leaked, she literally uses the argument that's child pornography, you will go to jail. And then the show proceeds to glamorize child pornography. Her being a cam girl, she used men to fulfill her aching pain of romance, or use sex to do that, which is true. People do that. I
Yeah.
don't think high schoolers are there yet,
Yeah.
because I'm somebody that has dealt with that. Like, I come from a place where I didn't get a lot of love, and like the trope of women that are hypersexualized and like to have a lot of sex do it because of sexual trauma. I'm an example of that. But also, I wasn't doing that when I was in high school.
Right.
In high school, I flirted a lot and I would like pretend like, yeah, yeah, and then never live up to it because I wasn't ready to explore those things. But
Right.
I didn't really start exploring like using sex to get back at men or feel my trauma until like college.
Literally.
So the fact that she's like literally had one sexual experience and went to this is her character arc is weird. And it's just like, Sam, just write this for college people. Literally.
Yeah.
That, I mean, the show would still be shitty because it's written poorly. It would still be bad, but at least like I would feel less uncomfortable because it's college kids, but these are teens. These are babies.
Yeah. Like
These
now
are fucking babies.
you're normalizing it. You're normalizing the whole these old men, these older people waiting on these people to turn 16, the age of consent. You know what I mean? These type
Right.
of things so that oh now it's okay because look at this show and everyone's watching the show. Very well known celebrities, everyone's watching it and everyone's enjoying it. And now it's just like, okay, now this is gonna be more normalized of people who are really just like, oh you're 17, oh you're that's fine, like that's good.
Right.
I'm like,
Right.
mm,
Euphoria is not the first show to over sexualize teens. I just think it really pushed the button, and I was really sick of it by then. And I think that plays into like people forgetting that teens are babies, because all we see on TV and film are these sexy, hot 30-year-old teens.
literally.
That you forget, like a teenager is literally a child. Like, you forget. You literally, it's almost like you're brainwashed into believing this thing.
That's what's
They're babies.
it's scary about that. Like almost that representation that they're getting so they are believing this or trying to become this or look this way being that age because that's the representation that they're getting and they think that all these things are okay. That can probably get them into some really scary, really sticky situations. Lying about their age
Yeah.
no problem because Jules does do that along with some other characters. When they're
Hmm.
asked about their age, they're asked about, oh yeah I can handle, like oh yeah I'm old enough I can handle that, I can, because then it's like what type of things are you getting yourself into? Then it's like normalizing that for other people to use, because I used to totally do that. Speaking from experience too, it's like with my own hypersexualization of my like younger teenage years, it's like how come instead everyone's like kind of this like my own thing, but everyone was like shaming me, judging me for my hypersexualization when I'm just like, how come we didn't do a whole 360 and you were like, hey, maybe we should reach out to this person, see why they're being so hypersexual. Maybe something happened.
Exactly.
Maybe something's wrong. Maybe we should give them resources.
Yeah.
Just like this person wants to have sex. Let's like something's wrong with them. You know what I mean? Because that's what's
Yeah.
now. It's like everyone's wanting to have sex and it's like okay, but it's like maybe we should look into why do you want to hypersexualize at such a young age? Did something
Hmm. And shows like Euphoria does not help. Like, honestly, every character is awful, and the show tries really hard to make these characters deep. The I think the best example is Cassie. Cassie is like the slut tropey character, and the writers make it obvious that she does not like this representation, right? She doesn't feel like that's not actually her. Yet the writers only write her sexy.
yeah.
Every single episode, her boobs are out. Aside from the one time she goes to get an abortion, she's all like, she literally, all she does is like try and fuck somebody and uses her body and da, 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 da. And it's like, you you want us to believe that Cassie struggles with this and that's not who she really is. She actually has a lot to offer, but you don't give her any chance to do that. But you throw in ice skating as a passion for like 2 minutes just to like make it look like she's deep. Like, and
Right.
that's what they do, right? Like
Right.
they make it, they throw this random shit in to make these characters look deep, and it's like, this is not deep. This is not complicated. This is not well written.
No, that's, I had never really like thought too deeply about that, but literally now that we are, it's like she's always, yeah, she's having her body be on display. They make her kind of talk like, what, like, you know, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
They have her do these things on accident, or you know, these somewhat kind of like dumb or stupid things, and then have her be like, what, like I never, like, no, 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 like that kind of a thing.
Right.
She's cheating, she's, you know what I mean, like,
Right.
like, and it's like, okay, well then how come we didn't give her a passion? Why couldn't she be really into something like a subject where she has, you know, she's like passing with flying colors or something like that, in something where she's passionate about something where she's really using her mind or something like that, so then she's not a body. Like they really just brought her down to, because you know that whole argument where it's like, I'm just a body, you don't see me for anything
Mhm.
else in my body, and vice
Mhm.
versa. I'm just a voice if you're a good singer, or I'm just a this, I'm just a brain because
Mhm.
you don't see anything else. That's what they really did with her, and they tried to make it like, oh, like she has daddy issues, and
Right.
you know what I mean? It's just like, okay, like have, like let's see her use that for her character development for something other than
Exactly.
like, oh, now I have issues with men and like protective stuff during sex. Like what?
Yeah, like it's just, it I don't know, like they didn't even give her a chance, and that bothered me so much because of my hypersexuality. Like I am the bimbo slut, like everybody, maybe not bimbo, but like via Instagram, like I am like certified hoe, and I know that I'm very deep. I know I have more to offer, but a lot of people don't assume that of me because of like the way I dress. I like to dress the way I dress. That's why I do. It's for me, not for anybody else.
Period.
But if you would take the time and get to know me, you know that I'm deep. So I was really excited to like maybe see Cassie go through that same, journey. Like it's evident that she's the slutty character, but she's not just the slutty character, and they didn't do that.
Yeah.
But it claims it does, and that's the issue.
Yeah.
Like, it was fun to watch Euphoria as a joke and not take it seriously because I honestly enjoyed it way too much. But the fact that it acts like it's better than what it actually is, and people believe that, is my issue. You can be bad and entertaining. The problem is that it acts like it's better than it is. Also, it has a lot of like dangerous things that we talk about, like the hypersexualization, all those things.
Right.
Also has all those problems, but you know, beyond that, if it just would act like it was as bad as it was,
Yeah.
like Riverdale doesn't claim to be a fucking Emmy winning, and I couldn't sit through another season of Riverdale, but I just that was, the first season was enough for me. I'm like, this is bad.
I couldn't even, I made it like, I don't know, through part of the first episode. I'm like, boop, exit, exit.
I'm almost like begging people to watch better stuff. Like for adults our age, guys, if you want to watch a show that depicts not like this type of addiction, but like love addiction and sex addiction, what I think is interesting, Love on Netflix is amazing, and it's hilarious, and it's honest, and it's real, and it covers real characters and their actual problems, and also they're age appropriate.
Please, which we've been waiting on.
Appropriate. They are age appropriate.
If you're looking for things to entertain you, you know what I mean? Like there's different shows for that are going to entertain you, make you laugh, like, oh my gosh, keep you guessing, that don't cover such serious topics and then ruin it. Because that's another thing too. We have all these people who, they're talking about, especially my issue is with the mental illness type representation on the show. It's like you're introducing a character, or you have a character who is suffering from, different types of mental illnesses, bipolar disorder. Everyone loves to write a character who's bipolar for some reason. then, having their little mania, their little manic episodes. I'm like, okay. And then, they love to write about people who have, a moderate, severe depression. And I'm just like, when you're bringing to light these things and you're showing someone who is like more just like sad or just can't move or get up for the day, that's why people are just tweeting, I'm so depressed, I feel so depressed, things like that. And I have such an issue with that, because I'm just like, you do not even, sometimes I'm like so severely depressed and not like moving around or leaving my bed for days. I don't even know I'm depressed. I'm not conscious and aware that I'm having
That's literally me all the time.
what I mean? Like, I'm not until like a week later, I'm like, oh shit, I must be having a depressive episode because look at the stuff I'm not. It took me like this long to do my laundry. Oh shit, I must be having
Literally me.
That's what gets people like, they think a guy not Snapchatting them back, a guy not texting them back, or same girl, vice versa. You know what I mean? These types of things, or these types of moments like, oh, my mom didn't want to give me my $20, I'm depressed, or something. You know what I mean? It's like those really minor things. And instead of talking about depression as a mental illness, it's reduced down to a feeling, which it is not a feeling. It is not something you can just jump in and out of, like, I feel depressed. No, it's I have depression, I'm going through a depressive episode. Like, it is not just another emotion.
They tried to write Zendaya's character, Rue, the main character, like, oh, she had these mental illnesses and that's why she struggles with addiction, but they don't ever really do anything with that. And they're very vague, besides the one episode where they show us the very cliche manic / versus depressive episode.
Right, because that's
very cliche.
Yeah, with her episode, it's like we start with, like, as a baby, extremely high anxiety, so needing medication from the high anxiety, and then getting some type of pill addiction through the father. When the father has the cancer, we're just taking pills and laying with him on the bed. And then that somehow, like, stems to, like, a further addiction, getting kind of stronger, harder. And then the depressive episodes and the manic episodes, then we're trying to see this whole bipolar thing. It's like, whoa, it's like we go from to this. I'm like, what's going on?
They also, like, very clearly use Jules. First of all, before I get into my next rant, can I just talk about how they introduce this trans character and everybody's praising them for writing an honest trans character, but the trans character is literally a manic pixie dream girl, which further dehumanizes trans people. That's fucked up. Like, to paint this trans character like this unicorn, this over sexual. I don't ever know what I want. I'm just everybody's in love with me. Like,
and I want
that's
everyone wants to fuck
literally
everyone.
Like,
problem with, I'm like, why are you hypersexualizing, like, that type of, it's like trans fetishization, like the whole, like,
it's literally, they fetishize a trans person in this show. How dare people say that this is fucking representation when they did that? Like, I could not believe that is what I got. And then they use this trans character as the person that is supposed to save the addict. And we know, like, like, I guess they were writing like, oh, this is Rue's new addiction. Okay, fine, write that, whatever. Because addicts do often tend to find other addictions to get off their drugs. But you did nothing with that. You didn't show that how this is bad. I could not tell the state of Jules and Rue's relationship at all. The fact that they became best friends overnight was just, like, really weird to me. The fact that they both claim to have this, like, deep love for each other, and I did not believe that in the slightest. Like, you're not gonna fool me with some cute lights and camera movements. Like, there's no dialogue, there's no interaction, there's no chemistry that makes me believe that these characters are, like, so intertwined and entangled and in love and, like, the universe. And I believe in that. I believe in, like, relationship, like falling in love at first sight, and like like, we're just tied, like, we're connected, we're meant. I believe in that. I believe that is real. That was not what I experienced. That is not what I saw. Jules says, like, oh yeah, I'm the reason why Rue is sober, and acknowledge that that's a problem, but the show does not. When we get to the special, when Rue is like, she had relapsed and she's upset about the whole Jules situation, Jules leaving, which was so fucking weird because Jules literally could just get off the train. I don't know why that ended like that. Like that ending was supposed to make me feel like, oh no, they're apart, but it's like she's going like downtown for the weekend. Like, isn't that that big of a deal?
Yeah, no, that's the whole thing. It was just like it gave me like this small town vibe, and it's like just because two people are now hanging out together, we're grouping them like, okay, like Rue's like overdosing on fentanyl, so we're gonna call the one person that they've just been hanging out with. That's not, they haven't really gone through that much really together.
Yeah.
It's just kind of weird.
Exactly. They
Yeah.
didn't go through anything together at all. And it was just like I was supposed to believe that these characters are best friends and love each other. I do not believe that they were in love. I think they both were infatuated and in love with the idea of each other. And I don't like that, like, it's so uncertain how Jules feels about Rue until she says, like, oh, I'm in love with you. But Jules acts like she's oblivious to Rue's love for her this whole show. And she acts like, and then she spends time being in love with some other guy for half the show anyway. So it's like, and then she falls in love with some other guy, and or some other person, the girl that she goes to a nightclub, makes out with this woman, and suddenly she's in love with her. And it's like,
remind me of this person I fell in love with. Like, what?
right. And it's like, it's one thing, because, like, I mean, as humans, sure, we get attached. I'm not going to say that the feelings that you get when you're in love can't happen to somebody you meet, right? Because you can get attached. Like, I've had a really good date with someone and, would immediately go home and just think about them, be like, oh, that was amazing. But I would never say like I was in love with them. I could feel like this weird like infatuation with them. And that could be, it could feel like love, but as an adult, I know that that is not being in love. And it was just like, she said that she was in love with this woman that she had just met. And now she says she's in love with Rue. And I'm pretty sure she was in love with Tyler, who turned out to be Nate, who was blackmailing her for no reason.
Yeah.
Like
yeah. See, that's the thing too. It's like, I feel like when doing that, they're emphasizing on like the whole age thing. Because when you're young, oh, I'm young and in love, and I fall in love over and over. But it's just like, I'm like, is it really like that though? And then
yeah,
I think that they've had like, Jules has had all these one night type situations, and if Jules is falling in love with people this easily, you know what I mean? It's like, it doesn't really like, is Jules detached or is Jules not detached romantically? Because what you're showing me is contradicting. And the whole thing of Jules, like, yeah, like not being able to handle, I'm the reason why like Rue is sober, so I'm gonna get drunk as fuck in front of Rue the entire night, and not actually, like, I'm in love with Rue, but I'm not actually gonna say to her, I can't handle the pressure of being this huge like being that you are putting all your like expectations and relying completely on me. So like if something happens, you're gonna go off a bender. You know what I mean? Instead, Jules is just like, well, I don't really know what to do, so I'm just gonna get drunk as fuck like for the entire night.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
shit on the person that I
And
love.
that's one thing about this show. It's like, so we sexualize them like they're adults. They talk like they're adults, but all their actions indicate that they're fucking dumb teens.
Right.
And it's like, okay, can we pick one? Because
like 360.
like right? Because like they all do, like Kat at the fucking carnival sees the guy she was having a good time with talk to another girl. And because she's talking to another girl, she then feels rejected and gets mad. She dropped the drinks and was like, I'm gonna fuck somebody else. Like, she took it to the extreme, and it was just like, dude, like
like the sex life of adults for all these characters, and then just the mindset of like children, which is so interesting to me because that's totally just in my mind, that's like total frat sorority vibes, like, you know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Which no shame to them. Some of my close friends are in sororities, and that's fine. They're choosing that life. I know there's some that are good, but that just totally gave me like frat boy, like those types of vibes. And I'm like, okay, like back to the college thing. Like what? Like, come on.
Right, exactly. Like, just you could. And then, okay, can we talk about how we have a whole ass college character that just so happens to date a high schooler and always is with his high school friend? He threw a welcome back to school party, and he wasn't even going back to high school.
Yeah.
Why did you throw a back to school party? You threw a college boy threw a fucking party.
And then hearing about like Nate's dad's validation too, like, oh, you're still on the bench when Nate's dad still isn't even the coach. I'm like, you
Right.
care this much about this man's validation. Like, I'm like, who is this man? That whole family concept too was super interesting to me. Like making Nate's mom, you know, the wife, like it was weird because when they had brought her in and like represented her, it was like she was there, she was helpful, but she's supposed to be so dumb at the same time. She doesn't know about her husband. She doesn't know, you know, she has this complicated relationship. One son's the good son, the star, the other one's, I'm like, it's so messy with what's happening here. I'm so lost. I'm like, are we supposed to like the mom? Are we supposed to feel bad for the mom? Are we not supposed to like her? Is she supposed to be an airhead? Are we supposed to be like, oh, she's dumb? Like what's, and she doesn't see her son and like father of the son, like Nate's dad, literally fighting to the point it's so bad when he's like throwing himself against the ground and like having like almost like a seizure.
Yeah.
Like, where is she during this? Like what, like we're focusing on the father son so much that it's like she's completely gone. Like there's just no, like the female bi, like no, this is just male thing, right? You know what I mean? I'm like, what?
Yeah.
It's kind of weird.
I can say, like, just to say a few good things about this. Soundtrack is great. I like the music.
Yes.
I think that the best well-written character is the drug dealer. Like, his little brother weirds me out. I do not know why there's a fucking minor, like a 12-year-old selling drugs. I do not, with the tattoo.
With the tattoo.
That's a problem. But, like, Fez as a character is, because, like, I'm huge on, like, obviously I'm anti-drugs because of addiction. Like I'm like super anti-drugs and all that shit. But I understand the complicated personalities of drug dealers. Like I understand like drug dealers are doing this because they have families to support and they're mostly just like a product of their environment. I think he's probably the best well-written character. And I like Rue's sister. I think that the actress did really good. And I think that their relationship was probably my favorite relationship in the whole show. I don't even think Zendaya's acting was that great. I don't know how she won a fucking Emmy. Like, I like Zendaya. I think she's amazing. I think she uses her platform well. I think she's talented. I don't think she's there yet, though. I don't think she's Emmy worthy yet. I can't. I don't. Like, I just don't. After Malcolm and Marie and watching Euphoria, it's evident that, like, she's not quite there yet. I don't understand how she won an Emmy for this, but I think like it's Academy Award bait, like a lot of stuff. And right now, stuff on addiction is Academy Award bait. They just announced another movie called 4 Good Days. It's going to be released next month. It's with Glenn Close and Mila Kunis. I'm curious, but I know that that's another like Academy Award cash grab. Like they're just people. Mila Kunis, literally a comedic actor. I love Mila Kunis. I love her.
Me too.
But she's probably like, it's my time to get an Oscar. And they were like, want to play an addict? That's the easiest way, based on a true story. Academy's gonna eat this shit up. We got Glenn Close. So
But I hate that. I hate how it's just, it seems like every 5-10 years it's like what's the trending. Like first it was when they first started doing styles like this, it's like depression, you know what I mean, or things like that. Then it was like suicide type things, like oh my gosh, I really hated, I don't know if you saw this movie On the Edge of 17. On the Edge of 17.
I didn't like that movie either.
I didn't
that
like
character
it.
was so
It's
unbearable.
like oh my gosh, my best friend fell in love with my brother, I'm gonna kill myself.
That I know.
Like I'm just like, what? Like that's what I really
I know.
Like, and then 13 Reasons Why. Like that was that whole era where it's like depression went into depression and suicide, and then we're going into, you know, drugs and alcohol and the fun of it, and then now we're turning to the addiction part of it and all. I'm just like, and then we're talking about, you know, and in the mixture of that, the whole self-harming and not like sexual assault, different cases of sexual assault, different degrees, you know, whether it's whatever, but you know, it's like that kind of thing. I'm just like, wow, okay, so we're figuring out that people don't like to just see jocks and cheerleaders where the star jock and the star cheerleader who are perfect and fine are getting married and blah blah blah. You know what I mean? Like we're getting away from that, which I guess, yeah, that's good. I did like how the jock is like the most fucked up character, you know,
Right.
the way that we're straying away from it, and instead we're just making these really cringy kind of
That's what it is. It's cringy. I take these topics so seriously because I struggle from depression. I struggle from anxiety. I struggle from self-harm, everything.
Right.
And I take these things seriously. And it's not enough for me to just see it. I know for some people it is. For some people, it's like, oh, a show that talks about this. I
Mhm.
feel seen. I want better for the people that like think that this is good.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I really love like the actors themselves.
Hmm.
Love. I know they all have potential. I saw Sydney Sweeney on Handmaid's Tale first. So
What character did she play?
she was the wife of the Nick, the security guard.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay.
So that's where I had first seen her. And I just absolutely
Hmm.
adore her. I absolutely adore her.
So in her special, I can't think of the actor's name, but the guy who plays her sponsor, he's a damn good actor.
Oh,
And him
oh yeah.
to shit this like that whole episode was bullshit. That whole episode of like, I'm supposed to believe that what you're saying is wisdom to help Zendaya not get off that ledge. It was just monologue bullshit, not is not related to anything. This great actor is giving these monologues that are so weightless,
Yeah.
vague, and unimportant. And I'm supposed to believe you're helping this addict, this young addict, you're her sponsor.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can't wait to, he's in Candyman. I can't wait to Candyman because I'm like, you deserve better. And I'm happy you got the Candyman gig because
Oh.
that's some shit. You end up Euphoria.
Because I remember like when he first came on the screen after Rue had done her little speech of like I'm 6 months sober when it was obviously bullshit, and he had walked up, like that conversation, I literally rewinded it and rewatched it a few times because I'm like, damn, because he literally just was like, oh yeah, you think you're the shit? Who caught you? Your sister, your 13-year-old sister who caught you? Like,
Right.
I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, dang, he really went in. Like, he was super, like, just, he really can carry that. He carries every conversation that he's in. He's like,
He
totally,
does.
he's the
Yeah.
dominating, like, just the way he speaks, his facial, I'm like,
He's
wow.
so good.
Yeah, I'm just like taken by him. I'm like, okay, like, I
Yeah.
absolutely loved his character. But also, yeah, like I was just thinking about like weird character things, like even in Cassie's episode 2, what they do with the dad. That was really interesting. We're hearing about this character we've like never really heard about, which I guess that's fine. Like it's your episode, you're showing whoever you want to see, but we go in on the dad. You know what I mean? Like we're hearing the
Yeah.
whole dynamic of this kind of, which we didn't really do. Like, what about Maddie's dad? What about, you know what I mean? Like it was super weird.
Yeah.
It was the only
And
representation.
it's I feel like her mom is really the reason why she's the way she is. I think like the way they I know we're supposed to believe that it's her dad,
Mhm.
but I feel like Cassie does not care about it doesn't feel like she does. They say that's the thing, like this whole show tells us
Mhm.
feel this, see this,
Right.
believe this, but
Right.
they don't show us any of the shit. The whole time I was lost. I'm
Pieces.
like, so Rue and Jules are in love. Maddie is like, okay, so Maddie knows they're toxic. Maddie doesn't know they're toxic. Oh, Maddie doesn't care they're toxic. Like they just say like, okay, believe this now. Okay, because this character said this, they feel this, but
Right.
they don't show anything. I don't feel like these characters feel anything. I always say I learned about the importance of intention when I started taking theater courses, and my professor, I'm walking to theater class, all right, time to act. And my theater professor is like, okay, so we're going to read this and we're going to point out intentions. And I'm like, intentions? And they're like, you read the script, read the lines, and figure out what is this character's intention with this line. And I didn't really understand that until I started acting more and then furthermore writing. because I couldn't write a character or dialogue without thinking of these characters' intentions. And then when they say these dialogue with intentions, it's just like everything comes together.
Literally.
But the dialogue, the conversation, the actions, there's no intent to anything. These characters are just kind of doing shit.
This whole back view, like I know all about the dad and the issues that they had, you know, when she was younger, and how that led to them eventually splitting up, then him not coming by anymore, him getting, it's like I know all this information. Why do I know it? Just so
Why?
that I know, that's just so that I know why she has these issues with men sometimes, you know what I mean? And like he
Yeah.
was, yeah, and it's like the only thing I did kind of like, I'm like, huh, like the representation that they did of an act with him, like of an addict with him, because he really 2 o'clock in the morning, random text, open the garage to come inside, steal, and then leave, and I'm never talking to you again. You don't know the person in the car, don't call the number, that's not my number. That's the only thing that I was like, holy shit, you know what I mean? Like this feels kind of, you know, because
Yeah, that was very depicted very.
not even until second season we're finally hearing about Jules's mom, who's a
Oh yeah, I hated that.
who's like alcohol addiction type thing. And the thing that was interesting to me is
Yeah,
like
I
this all
completely
stems,
forgot about that.
it all stems from like Jules's coming out, because the parent couldn't cope with this. Like I'm just like, where did this all, because that's what it had,
Yeah,
you know what I
that's what it like. Yeah, Jules' episode. I thought that Jules was put into this like home. I don't really know what it was, like medical facility, because their parent was like, "Oh, you think you're transgender, and I need to send you to conversion camp." But apparently, she was sent there because she was self-harming.
right,
Very unclear. Very unclear. And then, like, Jules didn't talk about her mom, so we're thinking like, "Oh, well, it's evident that her dad is very accepting." Yeah,
right.
yeah, of her. So she just shunned her mom out because her mom wasn't accepting of who she was. But no, it's because her mom's a fucking ad. Like, why would you throw this at us randomly?
I was just, okay, they obviously just didn't know they want, I feel like they just wanted to bring something back, have some type of surprise, have some type of something.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? And then it was also like I was so confused about that too, because I'm like, okay, so there's some type of obviously gender identity crisis happening at a very young time that also is forming into, you know, some type of body dysmorphia type thing because of the gender, like not, you know, I'm just like, ugh. And then it was just like, okay, so the mother, if these parents were supposed to be together or something, why was the mother alone? Where, how come the dad didn't know about this? Where was the dad?
Yeah.
Dad
Yeah.
Jules. It seemed like Jules was in there the entire time. So I'm like, did the dad agree to this?
Yeah.
And then back
Right.
of it, like I'm like, this storyline for this is just super interesting. And then all of a sudden, if the dad didn't know that this is where Jules was going to be admitted, all these different things, comes and gets Jules, and the mom is gone or whatever, then how come the father is so adamant on, well, your mother's here for part of her recovery, and I didn't tell you, and I'm springing this on you. The person, your number one abuser, is here, and I'm springing this on you, and I didn't tell this to you, and they want your forgiveness, and I'm pressuring you to do this right now. Like, what? That was totally for me. I was like, ooh, because
Yeah.
from a situation like that where I have a similar situation in that sense where my bio dad knows, he would never. He would never. And if he did, like, first of all, if your bio parent is your abuser or whatever, like, I feel like it's such a, people have like restraining orders on their bio parents. Like there are, you know what I mean? So that was just so interesting to me because I'm like, okay, so obviously we haven't really had anyone who's been cut off from their family, parents' money here, because the way that we're presented is you text and talk to your parents every day is the vibe I'm getting.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
like there's
Yeah.
no way in hell.
Especially when your parent is dealing with an addiction, like
Right.
I mean, I think any person that has dealt with a parent with addiction or an abusing parent, a parent that has directly is related to their trauma,
Right.
and they have one parent that understands that, there would be regulation, rules. Not everybody knows that, but had he wrote that, maybe somebody could be like, you know what? I have a parent that is abusing, or I have this, maybe I should set a boundary because I saw this on TV. But no, it just normalized, like, talk to your people that abuse you.
Right.
Make nice.
Right.
They're doing better. Like, no, I'll talk to you when I want to talk to you. I'm
Right.
traumatized right now. Let me heal.
That seems so selfish. And then just like the whole thing of like, because Jules like didn't want to or wasn't going to go down, all of a sudden, boom, the mom runs away and we find
Right, yeah.
they've relapsed. And it's like, oh, and then it's just like thinking about what that does to the character too. It's like, dang, like now you're like, not only have you violated boundaries, trying to force someone to see someone who no, like that's just not happening. And then you're going to try and like make them feel guilty for this person's relapse because they didn't want to meet with them and like apologize. Like this is so I'm like, this is so selfish. Like what?
When I learned that Rue's addiction was literally like, why is she, like, I don't know. I'm starting to really get over this because now that people are talking about addiction more, the conversation around it happens to privileged people too.
Ah!
And I really, it's like, and this show is literally that. Like, every single person that comes on TV and talks about addiction, I love intervention, but they're notorious for this. It's like, my little white privileged son, grade A student, does not deserve to be a drug addict. Ma'am, nobody deserves to be a drug addict. So
No.
that's another problem I have, because it's like there's these privileged ass teens,
Right.
privileged as fuck, big houses, all these bitches got fucking money.
Yeah.
Not to say that these people don't struggle with these issues. These people struggle. Everybody struggles with the same issues. I'm just sick of seeing this is all we get. This is all we get. I'm only seeing privileged people struggle with depression and anxiety. And then if we want to talk about poor people on film and TV, it's like, yeah, their life is just so bad and they're just so poor. Did you know that this person's poor? You know, this person has to drink toilet water because they're just so fucking poor.
Right.
Like,
Right. It's like dirt poor. It's like Parasite type poor. You know what I mean?
yeah,
It's
yeah.
like if there's no like middle grounds where it's like, like because I feel like with the whole like middle class and lower, it's like what about the things that addicts in those types of situations do where they're in the basements stealing your like iron pipes, you know what I mean, from your
Right.
house, like that type of
Right.
I
Because
have
you have nothing else.
right, like,
Yeah.
I have money inside my house, I'm gonna tear it all apart, you know what I mean, like that
Right.
kind of
Yeah.
like perspective, or I'm gonna go to these cars on the street, or I'm gonna go to a rich neighborhood and I'm gonna go under the car and I'm gonna take it because it's like
Right. Yeah.
that happens, but instead we're seeing, oh, I'm struggling with addiction, I drink a lot, I'm having a lot of pills, so let me just go to this rich, you know how much it costs to go to rehab to be like
Literally.
especially for a long time, that's thousands.
Yeah.
There's no way. Like people can't
It's
afford
really
that. At the end of
expensive.
the day, some people really cannot afford that. So then it's just like, what do you do?
I was honestly a little surprised that they didn't bring up any financial, because I expected with Rue's mom being single, like, there be a financial conversation, but there wasn't, which is like, okay, cool, finally Black people aren't poor. But I was just really bothered by the fact that, like, oh great, another privileged person that kind of just falls into drugs because they live in a rich neighborhood where drugs are literally everywhere, and it's so easy to have access to drugs as a rich person in a privileged neighborhood, because especially prescription pills, like, that shit is everywhere.
There's different types of families, different types of situations going on. And it was so interesting how we got so into some families and then not into any other ones. Like, I don't know anything about
Yeah.
I think Kat has like a sibling. I don't know anything about the sibling. I don't know
Oh yeah, Cat.
like what? I'm like, we know so much.
We get that episode of Maddie's mom clearly like in a very toxic relationship.
Right.
And I also think it's really interesting that Maddie, like, they don't ever explain how Maddie is able to present as rich as she does.
Right.
when we go into her home, it's evident that like her mom is just a nail salonist,
Yeah.
like, and her dad doesn't even work.
Right.
And it's like, so I mean, like, yeah, there are kids that like put on a show,
Mm-hmm.
but like her show looks real good
Pretty
when she
expensive.
goes to school. Like, she
Yeah.
looks like she comes for money for real.
Yeah.
And she doesn't, which is like, okay, but it just doesn't, again, like, that doesn't make sense.
And I wanted more representation for Lexi too. I'm not gonna lie. I want to know
Yeah.
more about Lexi. I feel like Lexi is a lesbian, and I think that's awesome. And like, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I love Lexi. Yeah, Lexi was the other character. I saw like a tweet that was like the best characters in Euphoria, and oh, my friend sent it to me. It was Fez and Lexi.
yes.
Lexi was just so chill. So she like, I really liked that whole scene where she's trying to not help, like she's trying to get McKay away from getting Cassie caught. And it's crazy that Lexi was doing that because I feel like they treat her like trash. Like they treat her like she's so unimportant. The
Right.
characters and the show treats her like she's so unimportant. But
Right.
Lexi is great. We want more for Lexi.
Yeah, literally more for Lexi, please. Yeah, because especially her friendship with Rue. I'm like, what? And then for some point, I really thought that Lexi just had a crush on Rue. You know what I mean? I'm just like, 'cause there's that one scene when it was when Jules and Rue weren't really talking because Rue kissed Jules, and then Jules was just like, so they didn't talk for a while. So she went to the car
Right.
with her sister and Lexi, and then Jules was there with Kat, and then it was kind of like Rue and Jules went to go talk to each other, and the sister and Lexi were talking for a little while. Gia, I love Gia, and it was
I
like,
love Gia.
yeah, love, but I just remember Lexi was kind of like Gia was like, yeah, I think like Rue is like in love with her, and Lexi was kind of like, what? Like, oh,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, kind of like, because I mean, the stuff that Lexi's done for Rue and like the type of heated arguments they've had where Lexi obviously really cares, I'm just kind of like, I want to see a little more on this. Maybe I'm like, okay, like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
And she shows up to the Halloween party in a Bob Ross costume.
Right. I'm like, lesbian. But in the best way. And
right, yeah, in the best way.
right. And then it's same with the dance too. Like Cassie and Lexi are talking, and like Lexi's like, how do you get people to like come to you or whatever? And she's like, you just go to them. And I feel like Cassie kind of hinted a little bit like, oh, like you go to the guys or whatever. And then Lexi was just kind of like, I'll go to them, like not really like confirming like guy.
Right. Right. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And I mean, I know they're doing a season 2, and I would gladly hate watch season 2. Maybe Lexi gets her lesbian storyline in season 2, but I'm curious what they're gonna do because they covered a lot in season 1.
Yeah.
They covered a lot.
Yeah. Like, where can you go from there?
Yes, we can talk about these sensitive topics that are hard to watch and handle them with care. Euphoria did not fucking do that shit.
And then it's just saying, yeah, like we're going back to it. We're not really growing from it. We're still struggling through it. And we are like after the whole first season, one therapy session with one character. Like,
and you know, that episode was probably the most, it's still written crappily, but it's the best well written. And I learned that Hunter Schafer co-wrote it. So Jules co-wrote that episode, writing from her experiences is why that feels more real. She said something about like her relationship with men is like why she presents her femininity the way it is, and she was explaining how she doesn't truly understand it. And I feel like that idea is very complicated and real for her as a transgender woman. And I don't think Sam Levinson could have fucking wrote that.
No way. I think, yeah, Hunter was just like, I have a lot to say on this. I have a very, which they should have been doing, because maybe it could have been something so like beautiful creatively to have all these different types of perspectives for people that really know. Because I'm not gonna lie, I rewatched that episode. I rewinded certain parts because I could really relate to the I am in my head, fake scenarios, those types of things, like online relationships, the whole sexting thing where it's just in your mind versus real. I'm like, I can totally relate to that totally.
Yeah, when she says like I fall in love fast because half of my relationships are in my head, that one hurt it.
Yeah, that's what it is. No, for
Bitch,
real, for real.
don't call me out like that. That was the strongest episode, and I hands down think it's because Hunter was very hands on, and I don't know Hunter from literally anything else.
Mhm.
I've like looked on their Instagram, but they're like apparently she's like a model, so she doesn't really post any personal things.
Mhm.
I don't know anything about her acting or anything, but just from that writing, I want to say that she's very talented, intelligent, and I want to see her do some more writing and some more representation for the trans community.
We can tell versus like season 1 who was hands on and who wasn't, like what's happening with
Yeah. And honestly, the cinematographer carried that shit on their back
Mhm.
because like the cinematography, I can hand it to you. That shit's beautiful.
Yeah.
Now, the whole show, like it's so beautiful. And I think that's why a lot of people buy into it being good. And in Euphoria, I feel like the cinematography is just so dizzying and it's so like disorienting and like erratic, which I like that as a metaphor or a representation of like how erratic and disorienting it is to be a teen.
Yeah.
If only these were actual teens.
Like, and they weren't literally doing all the statutory literally, but I did remember, I like when we were talking about this, I do have one scene that comes to mind. When Jules is texting with Shy Guy, I really loved watching these, like the whole, it kind of was split screen. It had that one song. It's like, oh, I don't even want to sing it because I know I'm just gonna totally butcher it. But it's just a really soothing song, has a really soothing tone in the back. And it's like they're moving around doing their own thing, you're seeing the typing, you're seeing what's happening, and then it kind of ends with them, they're sitting in the same classroom and they don't know it, so you're
Oh
seeing,
yeah, that was really, yeah.
I really liked that. Like one second we're laying down, the other person's standing up, and it's a lot of like switching and moving, and then all of a sudden we're ending like boom, same space. That
Yeah.
was pleasing to me. I was like,
Yeah.
it was so good.
It's one thing to have bad writing, but to have bad writing, poor representation, sexualize these teens, like that is just too much, Sam. He should go to jail.
Yeah.
He should
Drake is a
fucking go to
producer.
jail.
I was like, yikes, yikes.
Like seriously.
I'm, ashamed now to admit, yeah, it did take me a minute. I started watching 2019. I was super, I think what I was just taken aback by was just, yeah, like the cinematography, the representation. Because, like I did really appreciate, especially when I was first watching it, yeah, like a cis woman and a trans woman. I like talking about those issues, like how, they don't have the same. I was like, okay, this is valid. You know what I mean? The whole time I'm sitting there, I'm happy we're talking about this. I want to hear about this. People need to know about this. You know what I mean? Because some people are used to watching all white cis characters, cis heterosexual characters. Let me correct that.
Cis heterosexual characters.
White ass bitches running around, talking about, okay, the one that comes to mind, Gossip Girl. We're all in the penthouses, living off our parents' money. You know what I mean? Like that type of thing. I'm just like, okay, so we're all used to that. So I'm happy that there's changes happening, but I really hope that now that a show like this has come into the light, that more people who are actually very passionate about showing the correct perspective representations of what's happening really come into the spotlight.
All in all, Euphoria is trash. I do not recommend it unless you want to hate watch because it's actually kind of fun to hate watch. But there's a lot of problematic things, and I would give it a rating, but I don't even think it deserves a rating. So not even going to rate it.
Director, maybe his director. Let me just say.
Yes. Vreni, where can my viewers find you on social media?
Oh, you can find me at Elizabeth Ruth Claire Jocelyn, one word, on Instagram. Fun times. That's the best way to reach me, I think.
Awesome. Thanks guys for watching this video. If you liked it, you can give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe to my channel if you want to watch all of my content. You can always hit the bell to be notified when I release new videos. Follow me on social media. I'm on Instagram at Disco Llama, Twitter at Ghosty, and Letterboxd at Ghosty. I see you guys in the next video.